welcome Tim Fitzwilliams from Fitzwilliams Financial. You know him well if you're a 13 News Now viewer. He's on our 4:30 show, and he's always got good advice for us. He's always got a lot going on. Now, Tim, we'll just start. How you doing? How are things going? We haven't had you here in a while.
I'm doing great. I love it when I get to come back and do this, and I hope that cat's okay.
Did you see
That's crazy, yeah.
The cat, right up on the top of the roof, a cat just scurried across. And really caught me off guard.
Like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Tim got to witness a little bit of our breaking news coverage there. Now, we're talking, we have a focus on retirement today. And this is such a critical topic to cover because there's no point in your life at which this would not be information that you want to know. Because
Absolutely.
Anytime the earlier you get started, the better set up you will be. And, I think this first question is one that dives a little more into the psychological. That is, as far as retirees go, people who have already reached that stage of their life, what's their number one fear as they embark on sort of living that no job time to enjoy the rest of my sort of leisure time life?
For sure. And I think to your point, I think what I'm about to say actually resonates with the younger audiences as well now, because the fear is hopefully not running out of money without changing your lifestyle. You don't want to change your lifestyle and you don't want to run out of money. And so some people may sacrifice, their lifestyle just because they feel like they have to, because they don't have the right plan to determine whether or not they need to sacrifice or not. So the biggest fear is running out of money.
Right.
And the idea is to keep your lifestyle the same as when you were working. And so if you're younger and you're listening to this as well, it's the same thing. If you're working, when you go to retire, how are you going to know that you're going to have the same lifestyle?
How can you know? How does one know the right amount of savings to make sure they're ready to retire and keep living the way they want to live?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's something that we specialize in doing on a daily basis. And it's really going to come down to really what you want to accomplish. In the general sense, the main goal is to make the same amount of money retired as you were while you were working. Mm-hmm. Okay, so have that balance. Now, how do you know if you have enough to create that balance? Well, that's going to depend on your risk tolerance, on how much risk you could take when you retire, your distribution rate. As we've all heard, people say, well, you could do 4%, right? To some, that's not going to cut it. And that gap's still there. So maybe we have to look at our risk tolerance and structure it a little differently. Maybe we have to scale up the risk if we want to have the same. Or maybe we have to look at alternative models where we can look at things like private pension creation. So if you don't have a pension and you retire, you implement some type of product solution like an annuity to give you that pension that you need. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to figure out what your lifestyle is when you retire. Mm-hmm. You're probably going to want to keep it the same as while you were working. And then you have to look at the amount that you have, figure out how much do I need to earn in order to keep that going.
And I always like asking you questions like that because I know you're going to bring a litany of different sort of options and variables, as there always is. Now, if someone is kind of surveying the scene right now and they're looking at the situation of retired folks here in 2026, the resources available at their disposal, the amount of capital that they need to live comfortably, and that person who's kind of observing all this is not going to retire for another 30 years.
Sure.
How will their retirement environment be different than the current one in terms of the financial landscape?
Well, what we're seeing and what we have seen in the last 10 years for sure is a shift from the pension mindset. So one would argue there's probably not going to be a pension, right? That's number one. Then the one that's up in the air that people are looking at, because in 2036, without any further changes to the law, they're looking to be a decrease in Social Security income. So we say, well, that would be another thing, right? So I think that's it. Now what you're seeing is people are changing jobs to wherever they can get the best deal, where they're going to get paid the most. The loyalty is not like it used to be, because the pension was there keeping them loyal to that company, because they knew when they went to retire, they were going to be taken care of. Without that, people are moving back and forth at a faster rate than ever. And with good reason, because people want to figure out how can they retire. And without the pension, what are they going to have to do, right? And that can be a very difficult thing to answer. And that's where I think a good fiduciary comes into play, where you have someone that's going to put your interests ahead of their own by law. They're going to look at things and they're going to figure out what's important to you, because everybody's individual. Everybody has different emotions. Everyone has different risk tolerances, but you might have the same goals or very similar of not wanting to run out of money, but how you get there can be very different because people believe in different things and people want different things.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, just as a brief sort of tangent here, you talk about the sort of the diminishment of the pension and how that has led to more job movement of younger people. How has that impacted the economy at large? The fact that younger people are much more willing to sort of job hop in search of the best deal.
Well, I don't really know how it's affected the economy at large because I've never really studied that in that sense. But what you can see, if you're that company, you would think it would create instability, right? Here you are, especially as a small to medium business. If you've poured in 5-10 years into somebody and you've worked really hard with them, and then all of a sudden then they take the next best thing, that creates a lot of instability and a lot of internal damage that you have to repair. So I would imagine for the smaller and the more medium-sized business, my opinion would be that it creates more strife, more drama, more concerns. And so that's another way that small and medium-sized businesses should talk to a fiduciary to try to figure out, can they create some type of golden handcuff plan? Can they create a model where that employee feels like they're going to be okay so they don't just leave for the next buck?
Yeah. It's something that I'm sure we'll see kind of evolve over the next 10, 15 years too, is the, that, I guess, millennial base maybe. Would you say that's maybe where it starts in terms of that more fluid movement as they kind of grow into those prime earning years, which really many of them already are in?
Sure.
I wonder how that will change the landscape as a whole. Now, in terms of the sequence of returns, right? Can we dive into that? What does that mean, and why timing market gains and losses matters for that nest egg that you're looking to accumulate for retirement?
Yeah, so the sequence of returns is a mathematical principle. It just simply states if you have a sequence of numbers over a period of time, if there's volatility, where the volatility occurs will determine the end value. So this gets very interesting because when you retire, you're no longer putting away into your 401ks, IRAs, TSP, Alphabet Soup. You're no longer putting it into those vehicles. So now your money's just sitting there, right? So if you have volatility, right, it can have a net effect on you. Not only on the actual math and seeing your account go down, but psychologically. A lot of people get concerned, and they should be, but they get concerned about, can I go enjoy my life? Can I go out on that Viking cruise? Can I go out on that vacation that I wanted to go on if I'm down 15% in the market? And without having that written plan, that written financial plan, or working with a fiduciary that can provide that level of stability and understanding, it is a concern. And we see that all the time, is that people will change how they do things like vacations because they're concerned about the market. And they are thinking, well, if the market's down, should I really go out and do this? And that's concerning because you only get one life, right? You want to live it the best you possibly can. And volatility and the sequence of returns is very important when you go to retire. Right, because then you may not be able to do those events if you have that volatility. But what's really interesting is what people don't understand is that the sequence of returns is very unique because you could have two people investing completely different, but a husband and wife investing completely different over the course of 30 years, right? They get an average of 8%. This is where people really get confused over the average return concept. They both get an average of 8%. But Connor, at the end of that 30 years, one could have double the amount of the other. Because the volatility occurred at a different point in time in the sequence. If volatility occurs in the beginning of that sequence, it creates a lot more effect. So therefore, you have less at the end.
Okay. So there are, again, a number of different variables that you want to consider. But when it comes to that psychology, your advice to people who are experiencing that volatility and now it's affecting how they're going to go out and live their lives, do you advise to live your life the way that you planned and you wanted to, and trust that there will be a sort of a natural correction to whatever volatility you're seeing?
Okay, so that's a good question. So no, I like to look at it as a balanced approach and having a plan, not just trust, not just say, oh, the market's going to come back, everything's going to be okay. Although that's the trend and what can happen, it's about did that happen in the time that you needed it to?
Right.
If you're retired and there's volatility, do you have the years left to make it back? So have a plan, have a written plan, and take a balanced approach. Figure out how to secure at least your bills is one of the approaches that we take that I like a lot is let's get your bills taken care of. Then from there, once your bills are taken care of, maybe we institute a private pension, maybe we use like a current income portfolio, however we do it, in the market or out. Let's get the bills taken care of. And then from there, the extra money can be kind of fluff, right? Because if you know your bills are taken care of, you're still going to go out on a trip. You're still going to go enjoy life. So the money that you have above all of that is what we call fluff and fun. So then maybe you could actually push the accelerator a little bit more on the risk. And you could very easily without feeling nervous about it or concerned about the market. And you can really kind of scale that more, which we see that happen all the time. So a blended approach is what we would say complemented with a written financial plan based on your risk tolerance. And then from there, you can say, oh, I'm not worried about it because I got my bills covered. And if the market does have a dip, yes, it's going to come back, but that dip's not going to affect my day-to-day lifestyle.
It only affects the fluff and fun because you've taken care of the fundamentals.
Because you hedged appropriately.
Right.
Right.
Now, this question is so broad, but I want to kind of frame it this way, and then you can take it where you want. Say we have a young person watching who just got out of college and they're getting ready to start their brand new job. They want to be a long-term job for them. And as they're, that kind of that syllabus week where you're meeting everybody, you meet your HR person, and the HR person said, hey, make sure you take a look at all of our retirement stuff. You're going to need to sign up for however you want to do this at the end of the week.
Right.
What should that person be focused on as they explore the financial resources that the company has? What are they specifically, what they should be looking out for?
So there's two ways to look at that, right? I believe when you're looking at a job and you're looking at your career, the number one thing, I believe in economics, comparative advantage, do what you do best, trade for the rest. The number one thing needs to be, can you get growth? Can I come into this business? Can I come into this industry? Can I come into this job role and see myself scaling? Is there a path? Then from there, you would think I'd say it's the investment plan that they offer, but really I think that's number one because you're the best investment you will ever make is yourself. That's hands down. No advisor is ever going to beat what you can do yourself. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So you invest in yourself by making sure you're in a model that you can grow and you can scale. And then the technical answer is if they're offering a 401k or some type of retirement plan, then hey, let's make sure we get a match of some sort. Because that extra money coming in is a beautiful thing and it helps compound things very nicely. But still, number one, contrary to what most financial advisors may say, I truly believe it's the scale of your job role. Can I grow? Can I scale? Can I go up that corporate ladder effectively with what they're offering me?
Yeah, financial advice, financial insight, and life advice from Tim Fitzwilliams today.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't get to touch on here?
Well, no, I just think you made a good point where you said, should I just sit back and let it ride? It's going to come back. And the answer is it will always probably come back. But what we like to focus on and what I like people to start looking at, because a lot of people don't think about these things, is what if you could drill in and focus on those moments in time when there is volatility? And Connor, what if you could lose less?
Yeah.
If you could lose less in those moments, irregardless of if it comes back or not, just in that snapshot in time, if you could lose less, then mathematically you'll have more. And so people, I think, should start looking at the idea of a blended approach and losing less in the volatility, not just taking it for granted, feeling it's going to come back, and advisors say, oh, I'll see you in a couple months. Don't worry, just ride this thing out. I can't stand that advice. I really want people to be working with folks that are active, that are doing things on a daily basis to make sure that they can lose less, make more. And that's what we built our whole firm around, man.
Yeah, that blended approach. And that's something maybe we'll explore even a little deeper the next time we have you here, how to create that blended approach. So there's a tease for next time. Nia, you heard Tim said I made a good point. I don't know if you heard that. That was part of that. I appreciate that.
That's right.
And we will see you 4:30 p.m.
Yes,
on 13 News Now. Tim Fitzwilliams will be on our broadcast show as well to give a little bit more advice on how to handle your retirement, no matter what age you are, where you are in your career. It's something that it's good to start focusing on right now. Tim, appreciate you as always.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Live Impact News. When we come back, We're keeping an eye out for a couple of live events. We've got Chuck Schumer at the podium, the Senate Minority Leader. We also have that fire still burning in the Bronx. So we've got a little bit more to cover when we return.